Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. History isn't always written by the victors. Sometimes it's buried by the survivors. You ever get the feeling you're not from around here, like everyone else downloaded the same life manual, and you showed up with an ancient scroll in a language no one's spoken since the continents were cuddling? Yeah, welcome to the club. The one with no membership card, no newsletter, and absolutely zero chill. Because if you're watching this, chances are you're not just waking up, you're remembering, not remembering a childhood pet or your high school locker combo. No, you're remembering entire civilizations that the world calls myths, but your soul calls home. Atlantis, Kemet, Lemuria, lost cities, cosmic technologies, forgotten wisdom, and somehow you showed up in 2025 with their torch in your hands, a smartphone in your pocket, and a deep existential itch that no TikTok video can scratch. Let me put it this way. While most people are out here doing their 9 to 5s, you're low-key carrying an interdimensional group project that got left incomplete before the pyramids were even pyramids. You are the glitch in the simulation, the encrypted file in human consciousness. You are not here to find your purpose. You are the purpose they buried. So buckle up. Because this isn't just another chosen one fairy tale. This is the cosmic audit. And spoiler alert, you're not the hero of their story. You're the correction, ready to burn the map and light the torch. Let's begin. Number 1, you are the final draft of civilizations that were erased before the ink dried. You are the final draft of civilizations that never got published. They were scribbled into time, erased by flood, fire, or empire, and now here you are, alive, weird, restless, and wondering why you've always felt like a walking déjà vu. You're not just descended from Atlantis, Kemet, or Lemuria. You are their edit, their footnote that refused to be cut from the script, their glitch that made it through the censorship of history. These ancient worlds weren't lost because they failed. They were lost because they were too much too soon. And when the dust settled and the oceans closed in, they didn't leave monuments. They left code tucked into DNA, intuition, and late-night existential spirals. You ever wonder why your thoughts sometimes feel too ancient for your age? Why you feel homesick for a place no map can find? That's not fantasy. That's residual memory leakage. And you're leaking like a cracked time capsule. Atlantis was erased because its brilliance outpaced its humility. Lemuria dissolved when unity turned into complacency. Kemet was sliced into myth, mystery, and museum plaques. But none of them are gone. They're unfinished drafts waiting for someone to finish the sentence. And guess what? That pen's in your hand now, inked in ancestral fire and unresolved karma. You're not here to cosplay a pharaoh or chant in a Lemurian accent. You're here to carry what they couldn't, the truth wrapped in silence, the lesson hidden inside collapse. The weight of their greatness, yes, but more so the weight of their mistakes. Because make no mistake, your life is not random. You're the living receipt of what they bought but couldn't afford to keep. You are their comeback, their redo. The reason their story didn't end, just paused. You're the final draft. And this time the world better read carefully. Number 2, you're built from the ashes of civilizations that couldn't handle their own power. You were built from the ruins of worlds that couldn't handle their own brilliance. These weren't failed civilizations. They were overachievers with no emotional filter. Atlantis mastered the mind but lost the plot. Lemuria loved everyone so much they forgot how to set boundaries. Kemet built a bridge between body and spirit, then let the bridge keepers get too power hungry. The common thread? Too much power, not enough grounding. They didn't burn out, they self-destructed. Now here you are, cosmic sequel in human skin, carrying the baton they dropped mid-race, and no pressure or anything, but you're expected to finish it. While healing, paying rent, and pretending you don't hear frequencies other people can't. You're not here just to remember them, you're here to resolve them. You are their version of, let's try this again, but with more emotional intelligence and less ego. You were never meant to inherit their crowns, you were meant to inherit their warnings. Power without presence is still a ticking bomb, and those past worlds, they lit the fuse centuries ago. You've got their playbooks, but you're here to flip the script, because history doesn't repeat, it echoes. And you were born with the ears to hear what most people tune out, the sound of old timelines knocking, asking if this time maybe we won't mess it all up. They had the tools, you have the test. And this time the test isn't, can we build it, can we activate it, can we ascend? The real test is, can we stay human while doing it? Can we love without ownership? lead without domination, evolve without superiority. The weight you feel isn't failure. It's a spiritual inheritance with unpaid karmic interest. You're built from blueprints that came with both miracles and messes. And you're not here to repeat or reject them. You're here to refine them. Because if they couldn't handle their own power, you're the patch update they never got. And this time, crashing the system isn't an option. Number 3, you are the reminder that advanced doesn't always mean awakened. Being advanced doesn't mean you're awakened. That's the lesson Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria had to learn the hard way, and spoiler alert, they flunked the final. They had the tech, the temples, the timelines, the telepathy, but somewhere along the cosmic red carpet they mistook tools for truth. They leveled up in power, but lagged behind in wisdom. And when the power outgrew the purpose, the whole thing collapsed under the weight of its own illusion. They weren't dumb, they were brilliant, too brilliant, so brilliant they went blind with it. Atlantis, for example, figured out how to bend matter, bend light, bend energy, but forgot to bend the ego. Lemuria was emotionally rich but had no firewall, no filters, no discernment. Kemet built stairways to the stars but ended up gatekeeping the staircase. So while we drool over their ancient tech and sacred geometry, nobody talks about the spiritual tech support they clearly didn't have. Now here you are, living in a world where everyone's obsessed with upgrades, quantum this, 5D that, light codes and crystal grids, and yet people can't even sit with their own discomfort for 5 minutes. Everyone wants to activate, ascend, align, but very few want to be honest, especially about the fact that being spiritually gifted doesn't automatically make you emotionally safe. And that's what took those civilizations out, not the lack of knowledge, but the lack of self-awareness. You, on the other hand, have no choice but to wake up differently. You don't get to wear the robes without earning the roots. Your journey is less about how much you can access and more about what you can handle without abusing it. Because if being advanced is the new drug, then ego is still the dealer. You're not here to become powerful. You're here to become responsible. Power is flashy. Awakening is messy. One impresses the crowd, the other changes the game, and you're not here for applause. You're here to do what they couldn't. Stay awake once the lights come on. Number 4. The real inheritance is what they couldn't pass down because it was too dangerous. The real inheritance isn't the pyramids, the portals, or the cosmic tech with user manuals written in starlight. That's just the decor. The real legacy, the one buried beneath layers of myth, rubble, and romanticized history, is the stuff they couldn't hand down. Not because they didn't want to, but because it came with consequences. The kind that rearrange timelines, break spiritual contracts, and piss off the kind of forces you don't name out loud. You weren't left the keys to the kingdom. You were left the mess behind the throne, the truths they buried under sand and secrecy, the knowledge that destabilized reality, the sacred chaos they sealed away, not to protect themselves, but to protect everyone else from what they had become. You don't carry their legacy because you're the best of them. You carry it because you were crazy enough or devoted enough to come back and finish what no one else would touch. Their wisdom didn't just get lost, it got locked because some truths unraveled too much. Like the truth about how unity was used as a weapon, or how sacred knowledge turned into elite currency, or how light was manipulated not for healing but for hierarchy. These weren't just oops moments in human history, they were detonations, and the echoes still show up as spiritual burnout, collective amnesia, and this gnawing sense that something big has always been hidden just out of reach. You didn't come here to be adored. You came here to dig through spiritual landmines with bare hands, to feel what they couldn't feel, to face what they couldn't face. You carry the torch, not because you're glorious, but because you said yes to doing the work no one else would do, over and over again, across lifetimes, timelines, dimensions. And guess what? They didn't pass it down because it was dangerous. You inherited it because you are. Number 5, you're not supposed to fit in. You're designed to interrupt the timeline. You were never meant to blend in. Your energy doesn't match the wallpaper of this world, and it never will. You're not a glitch. You're the update the system didn't ask for, but desperately needs. You didn't come here to match the vibe. You came to short-circuit it. You're the living contradiction in a world built on autopilot, and every time you speak your truth, refuse to numb out or question the obvious, you rattle the cage. You weren't born to follow the plot. You were written into the story to flip the genre. You didn't come here to find comfort. You came to crack open the copy-paste lives that everyone else is busy repeating. Being chosen isn't about being special, it's about being disruptive. You shake things just by existing. You walk into rooms and subconscious programs start glitching. People don't know why they react to you the way they do. It's because you remind them of something they've worked hard to forget. Truth doesn't need permission. That feeling of not belonging, it's not a flaw, it's a function. You're a cosmic curveball, designed to collapse the timeline where humanity keeps choosing safety over soul. You weren't programmed for small talk, fake smiles, or groupthink. You were wired for remembering. And memory, real memory, is dangerous in a world that profits from forgetting. You walk around like a normal person, but beneath the surface you're holding blueprints for a new reality. That's why the system tries to dull you down. That's why you feel the friction in every space that demands you shrink to fit. Because deep down, you're not just a person. You're a frequency, a disruption, a permission slip for others to wake up. You didn't come to fit into the matrix. You came to poke holes in it. Number 6, Atlantis was about the mind, Lemuria was about the heart, Kemet was the bridge. You are the reconciliation. Atlantis mastered the mind. They were the architects of thought, the engineers of energy, the pioneers of consciousness turned code. Their downfall, obsession with control disguised as intelligence. They could bend the elements, read frequencies, move objects with will, but they forgot how to feel. The heart was exiled and the mind became a tyrant. Genius turned cold, precision turned sterile, progress turned toxic. They didn't collapse because they lacked power. They collapsed because they lost the compass. Lemuria, on the other hand, was all heart. Deeply empathic, connected, fluid. So fluid, in fact, that they had no boundaries. They felt everything. They lived in harmony with nature, with each other, with the cosmos. But without structure, their unity became vulnerability. Their love became naivety. They dissolved, not from war or corruption, but from being too open, too trusting, too soft in a world that eventually demanded edges. Their wisdom was profound, but it lacked the spine to withstand invasion. Then there was Kemet, ancient Egypt before the edits. They tried to bridge the two, sacred science and soul, intellect and ritual. They flirted with balance but got entangled in hierarchy. Knowledge became privilege, power became inheritance. The bridge became a toll road. The spiritual elite rose, the masses were mystified, and the original balance cracked under its own secrecy. They preserved more than most, but still, they couldn't hold the center. Now, here you are, walking, breathing fusion, the reconciliation, the remix. You're not just meant to remember them, you're meant to integrate them. Mind without ego, heart without collapse, spirit without separation. That's the real trinity, not a hierarchy, but a harmony. And the tension you feel inside, that's the pressure of trying to hold what they couldn't hold together. You're the prototype they didn't get to build, the answer to their unsolved equation. And every time you choose clarity and compassion, intelligence and intuition, discipline and devotion, you realign the timeline they fractured. You are not their echo, you are their correction in real time. Number 7, your intuition isn't a new gift. It's an ancient skill you've recovered under pressure. That sudden gut feeling, that chill when someone lies to your face, even if they smile. That stubborn resistance to the normal path. Even when it's gift-wrapped with approval and a 401k, it's not a quirk, it's not a phase, and it's definitely not a coincidence. That's not intuition being born, that's intuition rebooting. You're not awakening as much as you're reaccessing a system you once had to shut down just to survive. You've used this before, you've lived by it before. In temples now forgotten, in forests now buried. In star systems the textbooks don't mention. Your soul remembers what your personality is just now discovering, that inner voice you've been second-guessing. It's ancient, battle-tested. It's spoken through lifetimes where listening to it saved you, and ignoring it got everything taken. That's why it speaks so loud when the world tries to drown it out. It's not trying to be cute, it's trying to keep you alive, aligned, and uncolonized. People talk about intuition like it's a mystical sixth sense you activate after your 10th cacao ceremony. No, it's muscle memory, spiritual reflex. And just like any reflex, it only sharpens under pressure, which is why the more chaos you've faced, the clearer your inner compass becomes. You didn't just wake up one day, you were pressed into remembering. The pressure cracked the shell, not the mirror. You've been this the whole time. That quiet knowing, that pull away from the crowd, that deep distrust of surface answers. That's a soul that's been through civilizations collapsing, priesthoods hijacking power, timelines folding in on themselves, and decided to come back anyway. You came back knowing full well what it might cost, but also knowing exactly what it's worth. Your intuition isn't new, it's old, it's sacred, and it's tired of being second-guessed. It didn't come online to be negotiated with, it came to lead. Number 8, being chosen isn't a compliment, it's a warning. Being chosen is not a crown, it's a contract, and not the fancy gold-embossed kind either. It's the kind you sign in soul blood, knowing damn well what it means. It's not a reward. It's not the universe's way of saying you're special. It's the universe whispering, you're responsible now. You don't get applause, you get assignments, you don't get ease, you get echoes of everything that went wrong the last time power went unchecked, truth was ignored, or sacred knowledge got turned into status. To be chosen means you looked at the wreckage of Atlantis, the heartbreak of Lemuria, the broken bridges of Kemet, and still said, put me in again. You saw how it ended, and you still came back. Not to relive it, but to rewrite it. That's not ego, that's commitment at a level most can't even spell, let alone carry. Because what you're holding isn't a torch for show. It's one passed down through fire, through collapse, through silence so ancient it hums in your bones. The torch burns because it's supposed to. It reminds you that light comes with heat, truth comes with weight, and purpose, it comes with a cost. The deeper your calling, the more it strips away illusions, comforts, the option to look away. You feel the pressure not because you're weak, but because the path you're on doesn't allow pretending. When you're chosen, you don't just awaken, you disrupt. You hold the line between remembering and madness. And every step you take in truth, you walk for thousands who couldn't. So no, it's not a compliment, it's a coded warning. This won't be easy, and you will lose parts of yourself that never belonged to begin with. Being chosen doesn't elevate you above others, it drops you deeper into service. It means your life is no longer just yours. It's a continuation of a vow made in silence, sealed in shadow and lit again, through you. You weren't picked because you're perfect. You were picked because you won't look away when it matters. Number 9. You're here to break the loop, not glorify the past. You're not a time traveler sent to rebuild broken temples or dust off ancient scrolls as if history were some collectible to be admired behind glass. The glory days of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Kemet weren't flawless golden ages. They were complex, messy, and frankly haunted by their own shadows. The rituals, the hierarchies, the secret knowledge, they were tools crafted for specific moments, and those moments passed. Clinging to those tools now is like trying to fix a smartphone with a rotary dial. It won't work. What you're really here for isn't to replicate the past, but to break the cycle that doomed it. That cycle is old and painful. Elitism dressed as enlightenment, spiritual pride disguised as wisdom, worship twisted into control. These weren't innocent mistakes. They were fractures in the foundation, cracks that ran so deep they swallowed entire civilizations. People who claimed to hold the keys ended up locking others out. Sacred knowledge became a weapon, not a gift. The trauma wasn't just personal, it was collective, baked into culture, belief systems, and even the bones of the land itself. You carry the responsibility to confront those uncomfortable truths, not to shy away or sanitize them. Because healing doesn't come from glossing over the dark parts. It comes from staring them down and saying, not this time. Breaking the loop means refusing to worship false gods of hierarchy or spiritual status. It means dismantling the systems that hoard power behind ancient mystery and spiritual elitism. It means healing the wounds inflicted by secrecy, exclusion, and pride. You're not here to glorify a past that fell apart from its own blind spots. You're here to rewrite the code, to disrupt the patterns, to tear down the invisible walls those civilizations couldn't see in time. Your mission isn't preservation, it's transformation. And transformation, it starts with truth. Even the ugly kind. Number 10. The fall of Lemuria lives in your people-pleasing. The fall of Atlantis lives in your obsession with control. The crash of Lemuria isn't a dusty story from some lost age. It's alive every time you say yes, when every cell screams no. People-pleasing isn't just a bad habit, it's the ghost of a civilization that loved so deeply, so widely, that it forgot how to say no, forgot how to protect its own boundaries. That ache to be accepted, to keep the peace at any cost, that's Lemuria's unfinished heartbreak playing out in your daily life. It's not weakness, it's an echo of a time when openness was both a gift and a trap, when love without limits became a doorway for collapse. Then there's Atlantis. Its fall lives in the knot of your mind that won't stop spinning. The obsession with control, the compulsive need to master every variable, every outcome, that's Atlantis screaming through your neurons. The brilliance that once built cities beneath the sea is now the same force that twists perfectionism into paralysis, strategy into rigidity. You're trying to hold on to something unholdable, replaying the story of a civilization that reached too far and burned too bright. The mind's cage is Atlantis's legacy, and every overthought decision is a piece of that wreckage lodged in your psyche. These aren't just psychological quirks or random insecurities. They're ancestral scripts, coded survival tactics written into your DNA by civilizations that rose, burned, and fell. Your trauma isn't yours alone. It's a living history bleeding through your habits, your fears, your desires. Every time you self-abandon or over-control, you're unknowingly replaying the mistakes they couldn't escape. Understanding this is the first step toward freedom. You don't have to be a victim to history. You can become the author of its next chapter. By recognizing the ancestral wounds hiding in your everyday struggles and choosing to rewrite the script. The past isn't out there, buried in myth. It's inside you, alive and waiting for release. Number 11, you were never supposed to have a map. You were never supposed to have a map because the path you're walking was never meant to be walked with second-hand directions. There is no GPS for this kind of soul work, no trail markers for what it means to hold ancient codes in a modern body. Your ancestors, Atlantean engineers, Lemurian empaths, Kemetian alchemists, they were the cartographers. They drew the first lines, they built the early temples, but their maps weren't designed for where you're going now. Their charts stopped where their civilizations fell. Now it's your turn. And here's the twist. You're not here to trace their footsteps. You're here to become the compass, the living, breathing, soul-calibrated instrument that knows how to move forward without needing a printed route. You're not following the lineage, you're correcting it, updating it, realigning it. The path they couldn't finish is unfolding beneath your feet as you walk it, which means it's supposed to feel uncertain. It's supposed to feel raw, unmarked, and sometimes even ridiculous. You may feel lost, but that's only because you're going somewhere no map has ever touched. And the pressure you feel, that's what it means to draw the line in real time, to make choices not based on tradition or prophecy, but on truth felt in your bones. You aren't here to preserve the past. You're here to course-correct the future. Not with ancient rituals, but with modern integrity. Not with recycled mantras, but with real-time clarity. This is why your path doesn't look like anyone else's. Why what worked for others falls flat for you. Why trying to fit in feels like spiritual suffocation. You're not broken. You're just not built to follow. You're built to locate, to recenter, to hold the pulse of something the old maps couldn't measure, because the real terrain, it's not out there. It's inside you, and every decision you make redraws the world. Number 12, you are not just reclaiming power. You are redeeming what power once destroyed. You're not here to flex power. You're here to heal its memory. There's a big difference. You didn't incarnate to recreate Atlantis's rise or Lemuria's glow or Kemet's throne rooms. Those stories already happened. And they all ended the same way, with power turning in on itself like a snake eating its own tail. The fall wasn't from a lack of wisdom. It was from the way wisdom got weaponized. Power wasn't the problem. What they did with it was. So no, you're not here to reclaim the old scripts. You're here to rewrite the meaning of power entirely. That means ditching the myth that power equals dominance, control, or special status. It means understanding that power without integrity is just noise, loud, seductive, and ultimately hollow. You're not here to own power. You're here to redeem it, clean it, detox it, unwrap it from ego, elitism, and spiritual branding. Because until that's done, every awakening risks becoming another Atlantis in slow motion. Redemption isn't about becoming invincible, it's about becoming clean. It's the micro decisions, choosing truth over performance, choosing presence over manipulation, choosing love without the sugarcoating. Every time you don't use your insight to control someone, every time you choose compassion instead of superiority, every time you refuse to gatekeep the sacred, you're doing it. You're repairing what was broken, quietly, invisibly, cosmically. This is the slow magic that no one claps for, the kind that doesn't trend, doesn't sparkle, but shifts timelines from the inside out. You're not here to perform power like they did. You're here to hold it like they couldn't. With tenderness, with accountability, with the kind of discipline that says, just because I can, doesn't mean I should. The torch burns in your hand not to light your ego, but to illuminate a path they never finished. You are not the sequel. You are the sacred correction. Number 13. The torch isn't lit by glory, it's lit by grief. The torch you carry wasn't handed to you in triumph. It was passed to you in silence, through tears no one recorded, from ancestors whose names were erased before the ink dried. It wasn't lit in a palace, it was lit in the rubble, in the ash of temples burned down by the very forces they tried to warn us about. You don't carry it because you're heroic. You carry it because you couldn't forget, even when forgetting would have made life easier. This isn't some glorified spiritual quest where you rise to your power with dramatic music playing in the background. This is the kind of path that starts in heartbreak. Real, bone-deep heartbreak for the land swallowed by sea, for the wisdom that was turned into profit, for the cultures that got sliced up and sold back as tourist attractions. You carry the weight of what was lost, not because you want to, but because you remember too much to pretend it never happened. The torch isn't some shiny symbol of enlightenment, it's the last burning ember from civilizations that were crushed under the weight of their own brilliance and betrayal. That light you shine, it's not a spotlight, it's a vigil, a flicker of memory in a world that keeps trying to forget. You shine not to be admired, but because the dark is too thick and too loud without it, because someone has to hold the line, someone has to say, we remember. And we're not repeating this again. So if it feels heavy, that's because it is. If it hurts, it's because it's supposed to. This isn't the fire of victory, it's the fire of refusal. Refusal to let what was sacred die quietly. Refusal to let the old mistakes sneak back in dressed as new solutions. Refusal to abandon truth, no matter how uncomfortable it makes the room. You shine because grief made you luminous, because remembering broke you open, and because someone has to carry the fire that empire couldn't kill. Number 14, you are not their reincarnation, you are their reckoning. You are not a tribute act for ancient glory. You didn't show up on Earth to cosplay an Atlantean priest or Lemurian oracle. This isn't reincarnation for nostalgia's sake. You are not here to repeat. They already did that, and it ended in collapse. You're not the echo of their greatness. You are the reckoning for their blind spots. You came not to bask in what they built, but to finish what they couldn't bear to face. Not their reincarnation, their evolution. The myths of Atlantis and Lemuria are often soaked in romance, glorious empires of magic and mastery, high-frequency light, crystalline technology. But under the shimmer was shadow, power without humility, wisdom without grounding, love without discernment. And when things began to rot, they hid the rot behind ritual, hierarchy, and silence. What they didn't say became more dangerous than what they did. Now here you are, wired for the same gifts, but born into a world already allergic to truth. You didn't come to chant their names, you came to challenge their choices, to speak the truths they buried, to heal the splits they created between heart and mind, spirit and body, human and divine. You carry their codes, yes, but you also carry the courage to wield them differently. You don't crave the throne, they did. You crave the healing they avoided. This is why your life feels like a paradox. Why you crave depth and freedom, but also carry grief you can't explain, because you're holding the weight of what was left undone. You're walking the timeline where accountability finally arrives. Your voice, your resistance, your radical clarity. These are not new. They're ancient promises being kept through you. You're not their reincarnation. You're the karmic callback, the audit, the balancing force. The sword of truth in disguise as a human life. You didn't come to play nice with false light. You came to call it out. Not because you're angry, but because you remember what happened when no one did. Your role is not preservation, it's confrontation. Not tradition, but transformation. You are the reckoning, gentle, fierce, unflinching. The future they hoped for but couldn't embody. So here you are, torch in hand, truth in bones, grief in your fire and memory in your blood. You're not walking this path because it's glamorous. You're walking it because someone had to return with eyes wide open, and that someone was you. You are not here to relive Atlantis, Lemuria, or Kemet. You are here to remember why they fell and make sure it doesn't happen again. You carry the fragments of civilizations that cracked under the weight of their own denial, but you are not cracked. You are cut from the clarity they lacked. The clarity to see that evolution isn't a return, it's a reckoning, a reconciliation, a radical reimagining of what power, love, truth and service really mean. You didn't volunteer for this path because you wanted to glow. You did it because you couldn't watch the cycle repeat. You said yes, knowing it would cost you comfort, approval, even belonging. And still you came back. You incarnated not to bask in forgotten glory, but to fix the fractures beneath it. Not to be followed, but to realign what it means to lead. This is not about being special. It's about being committed to integrity over image, to presence over performance, to evolution over ego. You shine not to be seen, but because darkness isn't an option anymore. You are not chosen because you're perfect. You're chosen because you remember, and because you're willing to do what memory demands. So let the torch burn, let it hurt, let it guide, because that fire, lit by grief, carried in silence, fueled by every soul that tried before, isn't just survival. It's a signal, a new timeline written in real time, through you, not a return, not a repeat, but a reckoning. And this time, we get it right. If this stirred something ancient in you, it's not a coincidence, it's a call. You didn't find this video by scrolling, you found it because you've been carrying the code. If the torch burns in you, don't let it die in silence. Subscribe if you're done with surface-level spirituality, like if your soul whispered, finally. Comment if you felt the weight of remembering. Share this with another soul who's almost awake. This isn't just content. This is confirmation. This isn't just a message, it's your mission briefing. Welcome back. We've been waiting for you. Stay blessed.